is right here.
Kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties.
You're damn right we're going to have casualties. And one has to ask themselves, at what cost? Why do we have to have these casualties? What exactly are you protecting? Is it strictly because of the Epstein files? Or is it something more sinister? Because when we talk about the Epstein files, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep in mind that there are still millions upon millions of files that we still have not been able to see. They have not been redacted. And so one really has to ask themselves, how much worse can this get? It can get a lot worse. It really can. And this son of a bitch, who is clearly compromised, I mean, let's be honest, if there's anything we could say definitively, it's that he clearly has way too many skeletons that he's trying to avoid having released to the public. And at the same time, perhaps depending on how out of control this gets, maybe he declares martial law. You never know.
That often happens in war, but we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
Noble. This is a noble mission. We are on a noble mission. To do what exactly? Even certain neocons or just MAGA grift posters are questioning whether this is actually a smart decision. And anyone with a rational brain knows that it isn't. There is no coming back from this. Now the point of no return has been opened. And there is going to be multiple layers to this that we're going to discuss, most of it related to economics. Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not Libya. Iran is not Syria. Iran is not Afghanistan. Iran is also backed by China, North Korea, and possibly Russia. This could end up being World War III so easily, depending on how far our country is willing to take this. Like I said, Tel Aviv is getting bombarded as we speak. And it's going to get worse. And as I said, in true fashion, like the coward son of a bitch that he is, Netanyahu has already fled to, of all places on the globe, he goes to Berlin. Because of course he would. We'll finish this out and enter our esteemed guest.
Pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran.
Iran should be nuclear armed, and they've never threatened us. And frankly, if they had a nuke, it's probably the only thing at this point that would actually deter them from doing anything of the sort. But if anyone can speak to this, let's have somebody who's actually from the region, who is of the religion, and understands just how bad this can get. And perhaps why things have been as detrimental as they have been for so long and have finally cratered to a point of no return. I hope I'm saying it right, my friend. Let's see if I get it right on the first try. Shaiel Ben-Ephraim. Did I get it right? Thumbs up? I did. Welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was about as good as anyone's done with my name the first time. Thank you for having me on.
Take it as a feather in the cap. What can you do? Hey, listen, we got to find our silver linings right now wherever we can, my friend. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself to the audience. Where are you based? Obviously, I know a little bit about you. I've been paying attention to, obviously, your dialogue, and it's obviously very helpful. You know, even though Jen Perlman is in the production room working tonight, it is always nice to see when anti-Zionist Jews speak up, especially at times like this where, the arrow is going to be pointed directly at the Jewish community at large. And I 1000% blame the Zionist animals for this, which, again, I've always maintained is intentional. So how did we get to this point, Shaiel, and what do you see unfolding as we go forward?
Yeah, so he's asked me to introduce myself. So I'm former IDF, used to work for the Israeli Foreign Ministry. So he really was part of the Israeli establishment. But I've distanced myself from Israel, especially during the genocide in Gaza. Today I work as a consultant. So what's happening right now is, the best way to look at it is the ambitions that Israel has always had have reached the point where Israel can actually achieve a lot of them. They've always had the goal of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank. Recent documents that came out that Adam Raz revealed show that Israel was killing civilians intentionally in order to scare Palestinians into leaving in 1948, and they're continuing that today. Already in 1956, David Ben-Gurion wanted to launch the Suez War with Britain and France so that Israel can be the main power in the Middle East in conjunction with the imperialist powers of that time. None of that was as successful as Israel would like, partially because of limitations on their power. Israel was a small, relatively weak, poor country at the time, caused a lot of damage anyway. But that's what it was. Today, Israel is very rich, very connected. It's become an integral part of this warmongering machine. And we see that through Epstein, and we see it through their integration with companies like Palantir and others. And they've managed to obtain enough leverage through political means and also possibly through compromat and so on and so forth on the United States to turn the United States into the tool that it needs in order to complete the ethnic cleansing and become the dominant power in the Middle East. And, we're seeing Israelis talk about this very openly now. We're talking about the greater Israel. Even the head of the Israeli opposition, Yair Lapid, who's supposed to be a liberal Zionist, was talking about getting the biblical borders, and that is what Israeli ambition for this policy should be. The main disagreement between him and Netanyahu is over how quickly it should happen and what cost Israel should pay diplomatically, not over the goal. So what we're really seeing at the end of the day is Israel realizing a lot of its ambitions in real time. And this is what it looks like. And it's frightening how little pushback they're receiving.
That is an excellent point, and that is an excellent transition to the commentary made by Yair Lapid, which, again, as it speaks to the desire for this greater Israel project, you now have basically a completely overrun federal government in the United States that adheres to the will of the Zionist cause. And here's an example of going along to get along.
The statement that you don't agree with everything Benjamin Netanyahu does.
It is an understatement.
I'm just interested in your support this time. Is that reflected across Israel, do you think? Is there a general feeling that this is what needs to happen?
Yes. This is beyond Israeli politics. This is beyond day-to-day politics. This is existential. Listen, there are only two countries in the UN in which one of them is openly saying our aim or our goal is the total destruction of another. And this is Iran about Israel. So this is an existential threat. It is coming to us after we were massacred on October 2023, and we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. So if everybody messes with us, this is the price it's going to pay.
Oh, as long as the United States is military and its soldiers are willing to die for the cause, then yes, that would be the case. I think perhaps the most underrated aspect of this, and listen, I am kind of in your camp as of this moment. The night is always darkest before the dawn, but we're going to get to the economic layer that I don't think people are totally focusing on at the moment that they should be. The bigger issue here is how the tide is turning in the States. How the tide is turning against Israel in such a substantial way that while they may have ambitions that will allow them to get that much closer to realization of total domination over the Middle East, West Asia, as Jen likes to say. At the same time, how long are they really going to get to enjoy it when this country is basically saying, we don't want anything to do with Israel anymore? And if that becomes the consensus and eventually turns the tide on Capitol Hill, where's Israel going to go? Like, who are they going to run to that's going to protect them from all the things that they've been doing, all the war crimes that they've been committing?
Yeah, that is the $1 million question. And it speaks to so much more than just Israel. Because what Israel has done, I think we all feel this on some level, is it's embedded itself into the infrastructure of the military-industrial complex of the United States and into the corporate financing that keeps American politics going in such a way that as long as that structure is maintained, Israel will continue to have this influence. I mean, it's kind of amazing that after the poll numbers that came out about how Israel is losing its support and about how unpopular war in Iran is, this happened anyway. That shows that they're willing to ignore what the public feels about this for as long as they can. And that doesn't mean that things won't change. They will, but it requires an overhaul or at least a major challenge of the entire system. The system will not stop doing what it's doing. There's too much money involved. There's too many special interests involved. Really, that whole battle that we're seeing between establishment and counter-establishment today in the United States, which is the real story of American politics right now, not Republicans versus Democrats, but establishment versus anti-establishment, is also a battle for policy in the Middle East. As long as the establishment is in charge, and it doesn't matter if it's Harris or Clinton or Trump or Rubio, the end result is more or less the same.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that we can't just vote our way out of this or vote harder? I thought that if we just voted harder, damn it, we might actually save ourselves. Let's finish this out.
And when Iran says, as it has in the last half an hour or so, that these are our sort of scrap missiles, we've got unforeseen weapons to unleash on Israel, what's your level of concern?
Well, I am concerned. I have children and grandchildren here, and I care about my people. And but I wouldn't go too far in believing them with. I mean, it's their way, a very Middle Eastern way of throwing threats into the air in the hope that somebody will get really frightened and make mistakes. We are strong. The Israeli army is strong. We got the strongest military power in the world, which is the American Army and Navy behind us.
And there it is. And there it is. And that is really all that matters, doesn't it? You can claim that you have a strong military. You can claim that your country is united around the cause. But at the end of the day, if you do not have the United States military backing you up, you are a dustbin of history. And they really don't understand the tightrope they are walking at this point, which I believe they are. I believe that this is a tightrope that is only going to get worse. And as I'm sure you have seen, the hellfire that has been raining down on Tel Aviv for the past several hours, this is not Iraq. This is not Libya. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Syria. This is not Somalia. This is not Yemen. This is a whole new ballgame. And if they want to continue down this road, it could get so much worse. So much worse. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I don't think that Iran is going to be able to counter this as meaningfully as you're suggesting. Iran can cause damage to Israel. Israel will hide some of that damage. It certainly did last time. People will die. But the united might of the United States, Israel, and so many of its regional allies who are proxies for the United States will ultimately force Iran into one of two things: either a humiliating deal or collapse, which will lead to a civil war style Libya, style Syria. It could take a while, but those are basically where it's going. Where it starts to become more concerning is the next stage. So Israeli, I'm in touch with a lot of people in the IDF. They no longer consider Iran to be that big a threat. What they're looking towards is the next phase. That next phase, And you may have already seen Israel's allying with Pakistan. Israel's allying with Greece and Cyprus. Why? They call it the hexagon alliance. That's the new term that they're using. Why? They want to counter Pakistan and Turkey. They're already looking to the next phase of their regional domination. That will, of course, be a bridge too far, right? Because Turkey's a NATO member. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Turkey has a bigger army than Israel does. Not necessarily better, but bigger. Very well trained, very well armed. Pakistan has a massive army. They have their own domestic trouble. But basically, that is already going to reach the point where Israel is biting off more than it can chew. And it will lead to a sea change in American public opinion. It's already happening, but it'll be much more extreme. Just the sense that Israel is leading to war with nuclear countries and NATO members, that's where things start to get really dicey for Israel. They've created a self-perpetuating war machine. Netanyahu has done this a lot. Part of it is the Zionist approach to foreign policy. And part of it is Netanyahu's need to stay in power, which he can only do through warfare because he's lost so much of his popularity due to reasons of corruption and ineptitude.
Kind of like our president, pretty much the same.
Just like our president. Yeah, just like our president. They both learn from each other. You'll notice Netanyahu took a lot of the elements that Trump has in terms of neutering democracy and learned from them. And Trump has learned how to use war in order to create a sense of emergency at home in order to neuter democracy. And then we get the best of both worlds, so to speak. So Netanyahu needs the next war once he's done with Iran. And that's where Israel is going to go too far. And I think that Israel will very interestingly play a massive role in what is going to be some kind of revolution in the United States. The seeds of the revolution in the United States are inequality. That's the most important element. But foreign policy is turning into one of the catalysts for the change that we're seeing in the United States. And I don't know what the timeline for this is. Maybe you have some ideas on that. But the change we're seeing in the United States is consequential. The distrust of the establishment and the institutions and the billionaires that run us is endemic. I don't think it's curable at this point. And these wars are actually bringing on that reckoning at a much quicker pace.